If there's anybody right here in our station, take shelter. And looking at this shot right now on Skycam, we would essentially be looking right down river toward where we could have this possible tornado.
When the wind picked up, the building shook, so we knew something was going on.
We are bringing you team coverage from across the region and the state.
And good evening. Of course, Elizabeth and I have been watching these numbers come in all night long on the big board behind us. A lot of excitement and cheers and information coming in about this big win from Ted Cruz.
James Stratton is live in Des Moines right now, and James, all eyes are on the Hawkeye State today.
That might be an understatement, Morgan. This place is packed. Des Moines is packed. All eyes throughout the nation are looking at us, looking at Iowans to see who they're going to decide tonight, including the Today Show. You can see behind me we've got a live crowd for the Today Show. Now, they'll actually start taping that at 6 a.m.
Today, more than 60 dogs were seized in multiple locations between Rock Island and Davenport. Police say they've been building a case for about a year. KWQC's Bailey Dietz joins us with what's happening with those animals tonight.
Sharon, they're in the care of the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals right now at a temporary shelter. In all, the agency says it removed 64 pit bulls from multiple properties. Some dogs were found tethered on heavy chains and training devices that are consistent with dog fighting.
That's a lot of dogs.
A big commotion early this morning for several area neighborhoods. Jacob Richards captured pictures and video of the police activity right out his front door in Davenport.
All the dogs went nuts, so I went outside to let them in. And there's guys lined up all through the back alley with guns and everything else.
After tactical teams went in, he says the ASPCA did too. Richards counted about 9 dogs taken out of a home on his street and is in disbelief they could be connected to a major dogfighting ring.
They were in decent condition, if you ask me. The one with a couple of them maybe a little skinny, but they weren't like bone thin.
In Rock Island, people in other neighborhoods say they saw more of the same. Local police and the FBI spent hours serving 10 more search warrants in that city, and the ASPCA collecting more dogs.
It's horrible. Animals should not be treated this way. This is illegal. It's horrible. They don't deserve to be put in positions like this.
Patty McCrae, the executive director of the Quad City Animal Welfare Center in Milan, says she's relieved to hear these animals were removed from that situation. And while she hasn't heard of a case this big around here, she believes it happens more than we think.
I think it's probably more prevalent than we know of because it is secret. Obviously, it's been going on for a while, and it's a large ring in this area.
The shelter hasn't been contacted for any assistance with the dogs, but McCrae says they'd help in any way.
We would definitely have supplies, food, cages, whatever they might need in supplies.
For now, the dogs will remain at a temporary shelter until the court determines custody, leaving many to hope for the best possible outcome.
It's heartbreaking.
And many of you have reached out to us wondering how to help and asking how to find out if these dogs might be missing pets belonging to you or someone else. We are working to answer those questions for you and plan to update that as we continue to follow this story. Sharon.
Along with the more than 60 dogs taken into custody, police also seized narcotics and a firearm.
Topping your news at 6 tonight, the exclusive information tonight surrounding the death of a Rock Island high school student. Good evening, I'm Gary Mativier.
I'm Paula Sands. The Henry County coroner confirms 17-year-old Tyler John drowned in the Hillcrest Event Center pool in Orion. A toxicology report is pending, but the coroner says the teen had no other injuries.
The center's managers say the pool is closed now pending a state inspection, but TV6 Investigates has found the pool was shut down by the state last year. And the state says the pool should have never been reopened. TV6 investigator Mark Stevens went out to the pool to try to find out why it was open this past weekend.
At the Hillcrest Event Center, we found staff members cleaning the pool. The gate was open, we couldn't find a closed sign, and we walked in before a staff member told us the pool was closed.
Is there a sign that's supposed to be up that says pool closed?
Not really. The resort isn't even open yet. We're only open we had campers and stuff here, but that's it.
General Manager Dan Kost told me he wasn't sure if the pool was open this weekend, although the center's Facebook page and website included links to weekend camping deals, which included daily pool passes.
I don't believe so, but I wasn't here for the weekend, so I really can't answer those questions.
Are you trying to get the pool open for business? I'm just asking because the state had shut it down last year for operating without a license, and on the database it still says that it hasn't been reauthorized yet.
You know, I don't know.
The State Department of Public Health currently has a hearing set for June 28th for the Hillcrest Resort, where they're trying to assess a $12,000 civil penalty because the pool was operated without a license and was shut down last year. A current check of the pool's status on the state database shows that it's currently not authorized to operate. Cost referred us to the Henry County Sheriff and his company communications director. The sheriff didn't return my phone call today, but when I talked to him yesterday, he didn't know the pool had been shut down by the state last year. We caught up with Hillcrest's communications director, Kirsten Zerzanik, at the company president's home.
The pool was open on Memorial Weekend. After the incident, it closed down, and we cannot reopen until we have our inspection by the state.
Did the state ever reauthorize you guys to open from last year?
I have no idea on that information.
The state inspection last year found a laundry list of violations. The pool operated without a license for over 2 months. The pool's chlorine and pH didn't meet state standards. The bathrooms didn't have soap. Water testing records were missing. The state gave the pool a swimming facility closed sign. We couldn't find it.
I don't know between the two of them who's responsible for that. I think that Dan would be able to answer the question, but I'm not positive.
The State Department of Health spokesperson answered our question. She said the facility is still unlicensed and should not have been open. In Orion, Mark Stevens, KWQC. TV6 News.
Love, peace, hate. Love, peace, hate.
After 2 days of violence, hundreds in the Quad Cities are taking a stand.
The police killings, both by police and of police, are terrible.
I want them to know that it's not okay. And my son might be 10 months old, but his life is just as important as anybody else's life.
For some, it's about bringing the community together.
We just want to stop the violence in general.
This is our house. Dallas is not our house. Tennessee, but it affects us all. Let's keep the peace, and let's work on having the peace in our home.
For others, it's about educating children for the future.
I think it's maybe even more important that kids are here for this, so that they can learn and understand that treating people unfairly, it just isn't okay.
If we can get these guys to think with the right frame of mind while they're young, and they grow up understanding that, hey, we're all supposed to work together, regardless, I mean, that's it.
The march began next to Rock Island's police department.
When we first started out, I had no clue that it was going to be this big.
By the time the crowd reached Davenport's police department, hundreds had joined.
It was just awesome to see everybody cheering, everybody, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter.
And with so many involved in the march,
we're thankful to the Rock Island, Davenport police for escorting us and making sure we had a clear lane so we wouldn't get hit.
Everyone is happy for a peaceful result and hoping to continue efforts in unifying the Quad Cities.
And I'm so happy, I'm excited because it seems like the Quad Cities is coming together and we're gonna make everything all right.
It is election night in America. Good evening. I'm Sharon DeRee.
And I'm Gary Mativier. A big battle, as you've seen it playing out tonight on NBC on the national stage, along with some contentious races in our area as well.
Yeah, we are bringing you full coverage from across the QCA. Our crews are spread out across the region. We'll be checking in with each of them tonight as we continue to see those results come in.
Sharon, Gary, good evening. We'll talk about Mike Smitty as well as Mike Halpin in a little bit. We heard from Mike Halpin earlier, but the woman of the night so far just gave her acceptance speech as Congresswoman Sherry Bustos. How's it feel to get reelected?
When you check into a hospital for surgery, you're placing your life into another person's hands. You trust that they're taking every precaution to keep you safe, but hospital memos and state inspection reports dug up by TV6 show a number of mistakes occurred in recent months at Genesis hospitals. Surgeons mistakenly operated on the wrong side of patients 4 times in 40 days. TV6 Investigates' Mark Stevens has been digging into these wrong site surgeries, and as he reports, medical experts say these types of mistakes should never happen.
Wrong site surgeries are part of a group of medical mistakes called never events. That means they're simply never supposed to happen, but they do. In that letter obtained by TV6 Investigates, Genesis Health System wrote to its employees that 4 wrong site surgeries had occurred within 40 days. In that letter, Genesis writes employees didn't always follow the hospital procedures meant to protect patients. We asked to speak with the CEO and Chief Medical Officer to find out what happened and what the health system was doing to prevent it in the future. Genesis had us talk to its Vice President of Corporate Communications.
The severity of the error is
is critical to understand. In the case of these 4 errors, no serious consequence reached the patient, relatively speaking.
Genesis Health System Vice President of Corporate Communications Ken Kwqc says no one died and no one had the wrong limb amputated. But the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals found 2 wrong site surgeries occurred at Genesis hospitals within 2 weeks. On October 23rd, a surgeon at Genesis West cut into the left hip of an 80-year-old patient. The patient needed surgery on their broken right hip.
The surgeon began the initial incision, no muscle, no bone, the initial incision that would position the surgery to go forward.
The inspector found no written evidence that a key safety procedure called a timeout had been performed. That's when the operating team double checks the patient, the procedure, and the site before cutting. The surgeon said he didn't participate in a timeout and didn't remember if the team did either. A nurse said she did a timeout but didn't write it down. Kwqc says there's no proof a timeout didn't occur.
The nurse noted there was a timeout, but clearly it had not been an effective timeout, because if it had been effective, it would not have happened.
The nurse stopped the surgery, and the team figured out the mistake. The surgeon closed the cut and did the surgery on the correct side.
I think there's no doubt that everyone would conclude that more attention should have been paid to, are we on the right side?
On November 5th at Genesis East, a patient came in for thyroid surgery. They had a suspicious mass on the right half and were supposed to have the right half removed. But the doctor mistakenly ordered the left half removed. Nobody caught the error until after the surgery was done.
The surgeon removed the side, suggested that it should be removed, but when the physician got into the surgery, he became suspicious, went back to the original pathology report, and determined that it was the other side.
The surgical team reopened the patient's neck and removed the rest of the patient's thyroid. That half turned out to be cancerous. Standard procedure would have called for the entire thyroid's removal when that part was found to be cancerous.
We take very seriously the fact that there had been a miscommunication that occurred outside of our 4 walls and brought inside, but in this particular case, that patient avoided a second surgery.
Kwqc didn't have details on the remaining 2 wrong site surgeries Genesis discussed in its letter, but did say
they were also not serious safety events, in that no lasting or serious harm occurred to the patient.
So what happened? In its letter to staff, Genesis found doctors were not fully participating in timeouts. At times there were distractions, such as music playing in the background. Markings on a patient were covered up. Kwqc says staff members involved in a wrong site surgery are going through a disciplinary process.
I can assure you and the public that we take these timeouts very seriously, and privileges to work in this hospital are determined by compliance with our safety regulations.
The Iowa inspector also found Genesis failed to immediately implement a system to ensure timeouts occurred after these wrong site surgeries at Genesis East and West. The state calls it an immediate jeopardy. It means patients are at risk.
Why wasn't it addressed before a state survey agency ever got involved?
Well, it was addressed, which is how we came up with the plan. We reported it to the state survey team during their visit, but that doesn't suggest that we didn't react immediately.
4 in a 1-month period or 2-month period is completely unacceptable.
Dr. David Nash is a patient safety expert. He's the editor-in-chief of the Journal of American Medical Quality. He says modern medicine has worked to eliminate wrong site surgeries for decades. A 2013 study estimates wrong site surgeries occur as often as 50 times a week across the country. Nash says it only takes simple errors to accumulate for a wrong site surgery to occur.
A very busy operating room, very busy surgeon, some change in the general procedures of the day, and lo and behold, we get what's called the Swiss cheese effect, and an error occurs which could in fact lead to wrong site surgery.
There are multiple reasons wrong site surgeries happen.
Researchers studying them in Colorado blamed poor planning and not following the timeout. Nash says it boils down to a hospital's patient safety culture.
In a culture that is a just culture, that recognizes human fallibility, that questions each other in a professional and appropriate manner, there should be 0 wrong site surgeries.
We do audits. We self-audit ourselves all the time.
Tom Feldman leads the Center for Health Ambulatory Surgery Center in Peoria. His staff participated in a Joint Commission study a year and a half ago. The goal? Figure out more ways to prevent wrong site surgery. His team performed a mock timeout for TV6 Investigates.
Let's do a timeout.
Date of birth is 5/8/1972. We're here for an open right carpal tunnel release. No implants. All agree?
I agree.
I agree.
It's important to just refocus and get with a couple true patient identifiers and name a date of birth, restate the procedure, and then go forward.
One process Feldman's Surgery Center found could lead to errors were doctors marking their patients slightly differently. Some used a dot, some their initials, some a yes. With 85 doctors doing surgery, Feldman decided to set a standard. Everyone must use their initials, period.
I think that has certainly helped draw attention to how important the marking really is.
The study also found the center's timeout had grown too complicated, so they simplified it to the 3 steps we saw.
All right, let's do a timeout.
We're doing a right open carpal tunnel release. No implants. Everybody agree? I agree.
I agree.
Feldman says he's glad they took part in the study. Overall, the Joint Commission found the 8 medical facilities who participated cut their risks of wrong site surgery in half. The Joint Commission created a tool for hospitals to use to cut their risks too.
It's everything from the surgeon's office to when it hits our scheduling to when it comes in here and the patient is prepped for surgery, and then ultimately when the surgeon goes to actually make the cut or begin the surgery.
Genesis submitted a plan of corrections to regulators addressing the problems the inspector found.
We have done so, and they have agreed that our plan is effective.
Fixes include the following. Everyone must participate in a timeout. A patient's skin marking must be visible. Timeouts will be audited in person.
It's our philosophy here, and again, it has earned us national recognition, that safety is the most important of all of our objectives.
Inspectors conducted a follow-up inspection at Genesis in early February. They found Genesis was back in compliance with federal regulations. Had they found otherwise, Genesis would have been terminated from participating in the Medicare program.
Keep watching TV6. In the coming weeks, we'll show you how wrong site surgeries kicked off a push at the state level to report them and how Iowa and Illinois measure up.
It was actually the doctor there that first told me that it could possibly be lung cancer.
A very serious form of lung cancer.
I really felt that was my death sentence right there, because non-small cell lung cancer is very difficult to treat. It was extremely devastating.
While Tali was preparing to tell her family the terrifying news, local doctors made plans for further testing.
Then they sent me to Iowa City so I could have a bronchoscopy with a needle biopsy.
Traveling to the University of Iowa hospitals is the only way Tali could know for sure. Did she really have lung cancer?
We all walked in and you see all these cancer patients there, you know, and all I could think was, that's going to be me. I was really scared.
But even before the results were in, Tali's new doctor felt the initial diagnosis was wrong.
The doctor came in and she said, I really don't think you have lung cancer. She said, I really think it's histoplasmosis, it's not lung cancer.
The results confirmed Tali was not suffering from a deadly form of cancer. She had an infection called histoplasmosis.
Really?
So she asked the doctor, how did she get this infection that, even as a nurse, she'd never heard of?
She said it's very common in the Midwest. It's common, you know, by rivers. And I said, well, the river's right down the road for me, I guess.
She's not sick anymore, but Tali says histoplasmosis altered her path for the better.
It just gave me a whole new outlook, and I just changed a lot of things about my life.
I don't want to find out 2 years from now somebody else has got my identity.
It's what we heard over
and my savings account, my pension and all that stuff.
And over again at our Secure Shred event.
Good evening, Mahir. As you would imagine, there was a lot of hurt inside of the Hawkeye locker room tonight. This was not the way this season was supposed to end.
Morning! Have a great day! Hey, everyone, this is what gets me going, gets me started. Morning! Have a great day! And they keep telling me they stop and we talk. You make my day. I said, oh, if they only knew how much they make mine.